unlocking the potential of AI for paving companies. Um, this is a rapidly growing area of interest. And I think when we look back on it, it will be a bigger impact and a bigger disruption than the internet was. And so it's a big deal. It's just getting started. And it's something that you should be aware of and kind of keeping an eye on. And I'll be doing it. So if you follow what we do and what I talk about, I will keep you up to date, at least on the things that pertain to marketing and getting new customers. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. I'm not going to get deeply into the weeds today. Um, I just want to give, a rough idea of what's going on, what to watch out for, and what I think is coming next, and some ideas about where there might be impacts, just so you can kind of think about what you might want to be paying attention to, or if you hear something that's sort of, similar to this, to note like, hey, I should pay attention to this. So, and I'll talk specifically about an application that I am working on that I'll be asking for some feedback about as I build it. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the AI tools that are available right now. You've probably heard of some of them. You're going to learn a little bit about how it can help improve customer satisfaction, increase your efficiency, enhance security, talk about some key applications, and then maybe talk about some practical ways you might be able to implement it in your business. Why should you listen to me? I've been working with paving companies on marketing for quite some time, on marketing, digital marketing in general for a very long time. And we have lots of paving customers, client testimonials. Won't go into all of that, but it's there. And this is, all of these webinars are meant to talk about kind of what we call the digital dominance method. Now, this one's a little bit different in that it's not really a part of any one of these, but over time, it will be a part of all of them. And it'll, it really will reshape all of these things in a very fundamental way over the next 5 to 10 years for sure. So, definitely something to be aware of and something that we'll be on top of and bringing to our customers as appropriate. So just an introduction to it. So what is AI? You hear about it all the time, and you'll hear people use it in ways that's not appropriate. I mean, people will just call it AI because AI is the thing now. Um, but it really just refers to the capability of machines to imitate intelligent human behavior. And these are things like machine learning, natural language processing, computer vision. You probably heard about ChatGPT. That's kind of the most famous one. Um, but there's a ton of things like that. And or you might think about like Tesla and self-driving vehicles. Well, that's another kind of AI. It's all kind of part of this same sort of thing here, which involves training computers and machines on large data sets that can do analysis much faster than we can as humans. Um, and that's really what it boils down to. And so it's things like the chatbots like ChatGPT. There's content generators that do it. I mean, it's really exploding all over the place here already. And I'm sure you've been hearing about it and seeing some of the things that it can do. That's just going to increase over time. Um, and the biggest thing that it's doing now, outside of like self-driving cars and things like that, obviously, is it's really kind of like a helpful assistant in a lot of ways. That's how I use it a lot. I really use it right now for two things. One, if I want a good breakdown of something, or if I want to understand something, or if I just, never heard of this thing before, I can get a really generally good summary from AI. You have to be a little cautious with these things because sometimes they can hallucinate, they call it, and give you bad information. But it's a pretty quick and efficient way to get very detailed answers, certainly much better than Google. And that's why if you've been in Google lately, you see them kind of leading their results with this AI generated stuff. They can see how it's going to impact them, and they're trying to get in front of it also. They have their own AI models. It's called Gemini. And so they're doing this too. But uh, your staff can use these tools to make themselves more productive. There's not a lot of really practical tools yet for this, but they're coming, and you'll want to watch out for them. And there's lots of things. Um, we'll see. We'll talk about some use cases as we get further along here, but there's definitely some things you can do in the short term now to even get this stuff moving. But it's important. It's going to impact you. And in construction related industries, there's been a slower uptake. Um, Overall in construction, include paving and construction, the investment in tech is growing. Um, it will continue to grow, and you will have to adopt it in many ways to remain competitive. It's going to give uh, companies that adopt this technology are going to get competitive advantages on their margins and in their production and their customer service and their marketing, all these things. And we'll, of course, help you with the marketing and the customer service if you're our customers. But you're going to have to watch your industry as a whole for tools that are developed that help with these things. It's going to be coming quite extensively. So the question really isn't why AI, and really not even why wouldn't you try AI, but are you prepared and aware of what AI is going to bring? And the vast majority of people are not at all. And so my biggest takeaway from this presentation is start paying attention to this. I could be wrong, but I think it will be bigger than the internet. And if you think back, I was a teenager when the internet just kind of started coming out. Like I had like 300 baud, 1200 baud modems, if you remember that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of in this time of like, I have a little bit of a memory of the pre-internet age. Many of you will have a much better, get maybe 10 years on me, 20 years on me in some cases. You'll have an even better memory of a pre-internet age. Well, we're going to have the same kind of break between the pre-internet age, the internet age, and then the pre-AI age and the after AI age. It's going to make those kinds of profound changes. So let's talk about some ways that this may apply to paving companies. And so if you think about what paving is and what paving does, it's a huge industry. It's still broadly having a compound annual growth rate of 5%. So it's expected to be a growing market. But if you look at the key processes, and it's surveying sites, prepping materials, laying pavement, maintaining pavement, resurfacing it, seal coating it, repairs, all these things. And these are all predominantly manual operations with very limited digital tools and heavy machinery without automation. But there is a very good chance in the long run, and maybe not as the same as the short term as like digital tools, like email and chatbots and things like that. That's going to get hit with this first. But you can expect over time that your machinery is also going to start having some of this functionality, and you're going to want to be aware of that and be ready for it. I mean, you can expect that it's going to impact really every step of this. Think about how you first, I mean, not even here, how do you estimate projects? Well, there will be tools coming that will help you do that better. From planning the projects, things like predictive maintenance, where you may have tools to let your customers know, hey, you're probably going to need to do some crack filling this year, or what are some steps that you can kind of offer your own customers, of saying, hey, it's been 2 years since you've done this to your parking lot. Probably time to do this to extend the lifetime of it. There will be tools that will help you manage that process and be on top of that process and demonstrate it to your customers that it's something that they're going to want. Enhanced quality control. There's all kinds of things. I mean, a lot of this is speculative, but it really is a massive technology that's going to make huge impacts. And so, you know, AI algorithms can help optimize schedules and budgets and resource allocation. Now, that's really more of like a construction project focused thing, but to a lesser extent, I think in paving projects too, you have some of that. And where I think it really comes in handy is finding ways to improve margins on projects, be it in how you allocate the labor, how you plan it, how long it takes. I mean, you guys are the experts on this, not me. But the point of all this is think about all the processes that you have now. How will they be improved by, some of the analysis type of work being augmented with very powerful assistance? That's really what this comes down to. So certainly in project planning and design, to the extent that you have larger projects, there'll be an impact here. Predictive maintenance, and again, this is something I think on the longer time frame. And maybe some of this now, but as it gets more integrated, as the technology develops, um, you should be able to proactively reach out to your customers instead of waiting for them to call you and say, "Hey, look, based on our information here, uh, doing this now will save you money in the long run." It's a great way to kind of help your business grow over time by being engaged with your customers and helping them before they need it. Um, Enhanced quality control. This my team put this together. Again, this is speculative. You might read these and be like, "That's ridiculous." It might be. It might not be. As you start getting into the machines of the future, um, they're I don't want to say they're simple now, but if you look at, like, for example, how cars have changed, like you think of, like, you can see the classic car shows, those wonderful old cars. Well, they're really nothing like the cars today with all the computers and the sensors and the enhancements. And you'll increasingly see that in heavy machinery for construction and paving specifically. I'm sure there already is some of that. There's only going to be more of it as these capabilities and these functions increase. There's no doubt about it. Drone technology will continue to improve. Um, you may use it for site surveys now, but as these technologies uh, become more advanced and they start integrating with things like drones and with your machinery, it's really going to be crazy the kind of things these are going to be able to do. So again, the point is just to kind of sketch out what looks like's coming down the road, and just you'll hear about this in the trade publications and from NAPA and things like that. But I want you to think back and say, "Hey, I heard that from our goofball marketing company first," because it's coming. Material optimization. Again, these are things I think when you think about AI, this is stuff down the road. I mean, the technology stuff is already happening, and we'll talk about that a little bit next, I think. Um, but it's going to touch every part of your business. I guarantee it. So let's talk about implementing it in your business now, because obviously none of the stuff I just talked about is available now. It's probably years away. But things that are here now to various degrees or will be available in the next couple of years. Um, Personalized marketing campaigns. There's already some of that. That's going to become even more impressive. Um, you know, you could build things like virtual showrooms in the sense of, like, hey, you could, for example, take a drone, get a model of a customer's property if it's residential or a parking lot or whatever, and then, generate kind of a predictive model of, like, hey, here's what's going to look like when we're done, right? So to kind of help you sell the project, you're not just relying on before and afters of previous projects. It's here's what we forecast this is going to look like for you. I think it's a very powerful tool when it's available for helping you sell the project. The biggest one now, and this is what I'll talk about more, is improved customer service, being able to answer people right away, being able to be available 24/7 even when you're not. And it's going to give you a competitive advantage. And this is exactly what I'm working on. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. I'm just going through this for the first time. I haven't seen a lot of these slides yet. So the game-changing AI tools, the chatbots, the voice assistants, estimation tools, and the emerging technology that we talked about. So chatbots will allow you to have 24/7 customer support. These already exist, but these are like one of the things that are already way better than they were. You've everybody's experience. Okay, so everybody's already experienced these things in a couple places. Number one is, if you try to chat on any website, you've been getting chatbots forever now, but they've been very basic and simple. They're generally not very good. They'll give you like a predefined set of options. It's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. Just give me a representative, right? You've all done this. It's the exact same thing that you experience when you call any major company, right? It's got a nice sounding voice. They want you to think it's a real person, but it's just a robot, a computer program, uh, just kind of spitting through options. And again, you get to a point where just like, just give me a representative, right? We've all dealt with that. Well, what the current AI models are already enabling is a much better interaction, again, with a computer program, but it's much more knowledgeable and capable than what you've dealt with before. If you haven't talked to these yet, you will notice a very large difference. And so we're already seeing these roll out where they'll answer you at any hour. And they can be made and taught and trained and kind of given the right parameters and understanding to be even more effective at things like maybe collecting the information that you would need to give an estimate, kind of understanding what the type of project is they're interested in, based on that, knowing what information to ask for so that when that information ultimately comes to you, you have everything you need to do the estimate already. You may have some follow-up questions, but you're much farther ahead than, well, I've got someone that wants an estimate. Okay, we got to get in contact with them. You got to get that first information. How much better will it be when this automated technology captures that for you? And eventually, when it gets advanced enough, we'll do the estimate for you as well. That's later. Okay, so that's chatbots. The thing that's coming up now, and that I'm personally working on, is voice assistants. So these are things like automated call handling, and I'll talk more about this in a minute. I'm going to go through these other three, but I want to come back to these two, the chatbot and the voice assistant, because that's the most interesting thing to me. But if you haven't seen these yet, they're out there, and it's crazy. Okay. Again, estimation tools, as these tools become more enhanced and as people build specific tools leveraging these AI in these contexts, it's going to make quoting and estimating much more powerful and much faster, and allow you to maybe be more accurate in your estimates and have higher margins built in from the start. And emerging technologies, it's just, I guarantee the next 2-3 years is going to be nuts. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so before I go into this part, I want to talk a little bit about what I've been working on because I'd like some feedback. And I don't know if I have a slide that asks for it, so I'll describe it here, and then I'm sure in the email replay, it'll solicit your feedback. So what I'm working on, and so one thing I mentioned is I'm using the AI a lot for like, hey, I want to understand how to do this. The other thing that I'm using it for is I have a little bit of a technical background outside of marketing. Years and years and years ago, I did some basic programming. Nothing like developers of today, but I knew enough about programming where now I can use AI to write my own programs very effectively. I've written several already, mostly tools for my own use in my businesses. But that's given me a comfortableness with developing tools now for our customers. And one of the ones that I'm working on for paving companies is this sort of customer service front end that we're going to integrate into our websites. Okay, and there's going to be two pieces to it. The first is a chatbot. And what I want the chatbot to do is be more than just the annoying service chatbots. But, when you get a lead coming to your website, we want the chatbot to be kind of forward facing and encouraging people to be like, hey, tell us about your project. And we don't just want it collecting boring messages, but we want it to train it on the types of services that you offer, give that to it as context, and give it specific questions to ask the customer while chatting so that you have enough information that it's a really valuable lead for you. You know what they need, and you can jump right in and deal with it. And so instead of getting today what's normal is generally a light payload on the lead inquiry. So you get a name, phone number, maybe a description of the project. I want to make that much more detailed and useful and actionable, whereas you've basically already had that first call with that prospect and you're ready to get into the details of the estimate, maybe after a follow-up call with them, or maybe you have everything that you need to do it. So that's part one. These are not that easy to build, but conceptually I know how to do it. But what I would like is if you had a tool like that, what would you want it to do for you? What if you could just design your perfect chatbot, what could it do? I'd like to know that from you because I'm building it for you, not building it for me. And so I can imagine what I think it would be like, but there's nothing more valuable than hearing from you what actually would be valuable. So when you get the replay emailed, go ahead and respond and give me that feedback if you would, because it will go directly into me developing this over the next couple of months. Okay, so that's part one. Part two, the voice assistant. So I have been working pretty hard on building voice bots, and I've trained one on my own voice, and I've trained it, and it sounds like my webinar voice. So my webinar voice, for whatever reason, is not really like my talking voice, so it sounds a little weird to me. But I've trained it to make outbound calls, and I've been developing a program around it where, with some other programs, I'm going to be able to feed in a list of phone numbers, and but not me, but I am going to call them and have an interactive conversation with these prospects, collect information that comes back to my team to reach out to them to talk about working with us. Okay. I want to build something like that for paving companies too. I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet. So that's the advanced case. But what I can do with that experience is build something much more straightforward for paving companies. And that would be basically a 24/7 answering service. And so instead of you having to answer the phone and take calls, you know, and you don't have to do this, but if you have this option of just like, hey, look, I can have somebody answering my phone call, I can train it on my voice, so it sounds like me, and it can ascertain what the purpose of the call is. Is this a current customer? Is this someone with an existing project? Is this someone with a previous project? And collect as much information as makes sense and deliver it to you via email right away. So you never talk to this person, but you basically had a live, through your computerized AI voice, had a live chat with this person, gathered all the relevant information, let them know, hey, I'm going to get right back to you. And then that comes to you and you know what to do with it, and you never answered the phone. Now, this is you can already hire an answering service. So you may answer your phone during the day, and then, from 6 p.m. till 4 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever, you don't want your phone ringing. Well, some people call it weird hours. I mean, when I'm running ads, I get leads at like 3 in the morning. I'm like, what are you doing at 3 in the morning looking at my ads? But, people call at weird times. And so you can have true 24/7 availability, have your phone turned on, be able to receive calls at 2 a.m. and you won't know until you wake up that you got the call. Um, it can be done cheaply. This isn't like $500 a month. This is something that could be in the range of the chatbot and the voice assistant, somewhere around $50 a month, probably, to make sure usage is covered and it's profitable enough to make sense for me to build it. But this is the sort of tool that I have in mind where, really the lead generation and handling part of your website is handled by AI and trained up and does a great job for you. So that's what I'm thinking about building. I'd like to hear feedback from you. If you could have a tool like that, what would you like it to do? What kind of features would you like? What are some concerns you might have about it? What if a tool could do something like that, what would make it awesome where you'd be like, I have to have this tool? And this is not because I want to sell 10 million of them. And like, if I'm going to do it, I just want to make it a great tool for my customers. So I'm very much interested in what you think about how a tool like that might work for you. So really, this whole presentation, I wanted to give you an overview of where AI is heading, but then just practically, I'd love to get your feedback on what uses you could see for stuff like this in a tool that could be available in a couple months. Okay. So, um, and yeah, these next couple slides kind of talk about that, but that's basically what I have in mind. So, again, we always offer the free consultation, but what I'm very much interested in is your feedback on if you could have the perfect chatbot and the perfect answering service, and it was cheap enough that it was a no-brainer, what would you like it to do for you? That's what I'd like to hear from you. As always, you could set up a call with us. Go to paidmarketers.com/apply now. Give us a call. But just respond to the email on the replay and just give me your thoughts. I'll read them. And it'll go directly towards the building of this program. So I hope this was helpful. Main takeaway is if you're not paying attention to AI yet, time to start paying attention. It's only going to get bigger and it's only going to get crazier. So with that, I will wrap and I will see you guys next month.